Do I think that we're going to have $1 million Bitcoin in 90 days? I personally find that very unlikely, but you can't say yet. He stuck his neck out making a prediction that will be easily falsified if he's wrong. The Biden administration was quietly attempting to ban crypto. And now, a month later, there's all these things all these steps that the administration is taking to go after crypto.
A few days ago, Balaji Srinivasan made a shocking declaration that sent the crypto community on Twitter into a frenzy. He claimed that Bitcoin was going to hit the $1 million price in only 90 days. As if that wasn't crazy enough, he was so confident that he placed a $2 million bet on his prediction. But why is anyone even taking Balaji seriously? Balaji rose to fame when he accurately predicted the COVID-19 lockdown and exactly how society was going to respond. So, now that he's making a bold prediction again, everyone is paying attention. David Sachs responds to Balaji's prediction in this video, and makes his own predictions as well. He also addresses the claim that the Biden administration is working to ban crypto.
Do I think that we're going to have $1 million Bitcoin in 90 days? I personally find that very unlikely, but you can't say yet. He stuck his neck out making a prediction that will be easily falsified if he's wrong. Second, the last time that Balaji made a dire prediction was COVID. And he was right about that
one.
So you can't say that this is just like a doomer who throws out crazy predictions and is always wrong. He's actually pretty selective about his
nailed that one.
Predictions. Yeah, there was a tweet from January 30th of 2020 in which he basically predicted a pandemic based on a coronavirus and laid out a whole bunch of consequences that mostly came true. What do I think about it? I posted my own theory today, which I would call sort of Balaji light, which is, okay, look, if you think about this spike in interest rates that we've had and that Chamath thinks will actually continue quite a bit longer, there are three main effects that it indisputably has. Number one, undercuts the value of long-dated bonds. Number two, it's made lending much more expensive, particularly for big purchases like real estate. Number three, it's increased government lending costs. Okay, now, play that through the financial system. What does that mean? Well, if the value of long-dated bonds has sharply decreased, well, that's led to this banking crisis with the unrealized losses. So that's already happened. Number two, it's made lending more expensive, the credit crunch and CRE. We're beginning to see that. And I believe that's going to play out as the second crisis of this larger financial crisis. And then number three is the increase in government borrowing costs. That will eventually play out in terms of being a government debt crisis of some kind. And I think it'll involve, a spike in borrowing costs at the federal level. It'll involve sovereign debt issues internationally. I think it'll involve budget deficits at states and cities. So I think there's three phases to this financial crisis. We're in phase one, and I think CRE and government debt are the next two phases. And I think a lot of that lines up with what Balaji thinks. Where I disagree with him is I don't think we can know what's going to happen in 90 days. I think that the CRE crisis is highly deflationary. It's going to create distress everywhere in the economy. That is going to lead to a massive reduction in liquidity. I think that the government debt crisis, assuming the government wants to inflate and monetize the debt as a way to solve that problem, that will be highly inflationary. But when these things play out, we can't know. I think that's what makes this really hard is I think jumping all the way to the sort of finish line and saying we're going to have $1 million Bitcoin in 90 days because the US dollar is worthless, I think that's premature. I think this could play out over
Several things would have to happen for Bitcoin to appreciate in value as Balaji predicted. It's unlikely that Bitcoin would reach $1 million as things currently are, but indeed, things are falling apart in financial institutions. The latest concern is Deutsche Bank, whose shares plummeted at the close of last week. The German bank's share fell by 14% at a point, falling for 3 consecutive days in tandem to the increase in credit swaps. We're seeing a significant rise in these credit default swaps, rising by 173 basis points towards the close of last week. But there are even more problems on the horizon. This year, about $270 billion worth of commercial building mortgages are set to expire in the United States. These mortgages, which are held in banks, are currently a big concern as the possibility of defaults is extremely high, considering the fact that the commercial building owners are having a hard time generating revenue. But the amount at stake is even greater because an astounding $1.4 trillion worth of commercial property mortgages would be due for payment in the next 5 years. If more banks fail, then there'd be a terrible collapse in the commercial real estate sector. Even the Fed has made this one of their primary concerns, as they fear that CRE defaults could lead to the next banking crisis. Remember that overvalued mortgages were the core reason for the 2008 and 2009 economic crises that resulted in over 200 banks becoming distressed in the United States. Next, he talks about the claim that the US government wants to crash cryptocurrencies. But before you continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Thanks.
There's a really interesting article that was just published on Substack by Nick Carter, who I guess is a guest writer on Mike Solana's Substack called Pirate Wires. It's a follow-up piece to an article he wrote 6 weeks ago where he laid out an operation by the Biden administration called Operation Choke Point, which made the case that the Biden administration was quietly attempting to ban crypto. And now, a month later, there's all these things all these steps that the administration is taking to go after crypto. And he lays out a bunch in a bullet point list. So the SEC announced a lawsuit against crypto infrastructure company Paxos. Crypto exchange Kraken settled with the SEC. SEC Chair Gensler openly labeled every crypto asset other than Bitcoin a security. Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works held a hearing lambasting Bitcoin. Biden administration proposed a bill that singles out crypto miners for owners' tax treatment. New York Attorney General declared Ethereum, which is the second largest crypto asset, a security. That's a huge change, by the way.
Yep.
SEC continued its anti-consumer protection efforts by doubling down their attempt to block a spot Bitcoin ETF. OCC let crypto bank Protego's application for a national trust charter expire. And then the SEC just sent Coinbase a Wells notice. So I think it's hard to argue that there isn't a concerted effort now to crack down on crypto by a wide variety of government agencies and authorities, starting with Gensler at the SEC, who seems incredibly hostile to crypto. So now the only question is this correlated with the stress that the banking system is under, or is it just a coincidence? And that I don't know, but I think the argument Balaji would make is that at the same time, they're going to deflate the dollar. They're going to make it harder for you to find an off-ramp. And he actually brought up a historical example that I wasn't aware of. I think it's called Executive Order 6201, which is FDR, way back in the 1930s, actually had an executive order that confiscated all the private gold bullion in the country. And they seized the gold bullion, making the accusation that private citizens were hoarding too much gold. So in any event, this is the theory. I don't know whether it's true or not. It could be a coincidence.
A covert operation may be on to crash the crypto market in the United States. It's been dubbed Operation Choke Point, which is suspected to be a systemic chain of actions against cryptocurrency-related companies initiated by the Biden administration. We have indeed seen a significant rise in litigations against crypto companies in the US, and regulators such as the SEC and even the Department of Justice are all very active in cracking down on crypto companies. But is this just an attempt by the government to clean out the crypto market and make it safer through regulations? Some experts don't think so. Some industry insiders, such as Balaji Srinivasan, believe that these are moves to destroy the crypto market. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who's also aspiring to run for the presidency in the next election, thinks that the Biden administration has sinister motives, and one of their plots is to use the proposed central bank digital currency to monitor and control the finances of Americans. He revealed this in a tweet in which he called for a prohibition of the Fed's CBDC in Florida. Balaji thinks that more states would follow the example of Florida and attempt to fight back the same way that they have done for other laws relating to drugs, guns, and abortion. And he thinks that the Fed could react by restricting local banks' access to the FedWire network. But what about you guys? Do you think this is just a conspiracy, or is there really a war against crypto? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and you can also share this video with those who you think would be interested in the topic. We'll see you in the next one.